Line Big Blue, bringing you the best in New York Giants sports talk and entertainment. Ooh, we're going to have a cornucopia show today. Why? Because there's a lot of little topics going on, and some big ones, and we've covered some of the big stuff. But I want to talk about briefly Joe Judge a second and his whole philosophy of we're going to maybe take the red jersey off and get Daniel Jones popped. And I love it because people are like, well, that's just old school. Okay, you know what? I love it when I hear people tell me it's old school when they were born in the 80s and the 90s. Okay, I'm old school. I've been to Giants training camp going back to Pace University, FDU, Albany. I have sat there and I have watched Parcells. I have watched Coughlin. I have watched Fossil. I've actually seen Ray Perkins. And I laugh because that's old school. And in any of those, none of those training camps can I ever remember Bill Parcells wanting to pop Phil Simms. I don't remember that. I don't remember seeing that. And if someone needs to prove me wrong, because I remember being to many training camps, even like I said, even going back to Pace University, and I don't remember seeing that. It is one of the stupidest statements I have ever heard. Let's take our franchise quarterback, let's take the red jersey off of him, and potentially injure him so he could feel some game time pops. Most head coaches go through the entire preseason hoping their quarterback does not get hit. They hope, they pray that their quarterback does not get wrecked when they have him in the game. But he wants to pop him so he can get game time experience. I'm a Judge fan. I think he's going to do wonders for the team. But some of the stuff that's coming out now is just a little crazy. And then he jokingly says, well, we're going to take him out back with the soap bars and the pillowcases and hit him that way. No, you don't take your second year franchise quarterback and try to get him popped during training camp. I'm going to tell you something, Joe, and you're a smart guy. You have a doctorate and all this. You know what? Perpetual motion. A guy is in the air. He's not going to be able to ease up like you think he's going to. It's the same thing with the NFL sack rule, which is asinine. You got a guy flying at a quarterback. He hits him. How is he supposed to stop his forward momentum? You get your second year franchise quarterback crushed. I don't want you to be my head coach then. And to see people on Twitter and other social media go, yeah, that's a great idea. You know what? You don't know anything about football then. You should either turn off your channel, turn off your YouTube page or something, or your Twitter page or whatever, because you don't know what the hell you're talking about. There is no good that could come out of hitting your franchise quarterback in training camp when there's no preseason. Most coaches are delighted that their guy's not going to get hit. They're delighted. Why? It risks not getting injured. So you want to potentially injure him? And like I said, I hope to God he was just talking off the cuff with that, because that is in my mind, that is just 3 shades of crazy. And I don't even want to get into that. The Giants did make a roster move today. They picked up a running back. Nothing too exciting. I can't remember his name, Fester or Feaster. He was with Jacksonville following the 2020 draft. They released him on August 8th and they cut down to 80. So I mean, he started his career at Clemson. He actually backed up Wayne Gallman. So I mean, it's one of those things again. I mean, his college career, last year in college consisted of 124 carries, 672 yards, 5.4 yards carries, 5 touchdowns. He's an all-purpose guy. He's 5'11", 200 pounds. He runs at the 40 at 4.36. So, it is what it is. It's the Giants just, I think, kind of just tinkering around the roster. He's kind of a niche guy, which is kind of right now, which I find interesting, being that position, that niche is being fulfilled by Wayne Gallman. So could they be moving Gallman in a trade? It's potentially a possibility. I don't know if that's the case, but like I said, it seems the Giants are tinkering the roster. It seems like they're not 100% happy with everything that's going on. But you know what? It's neither here nor there. Like I said, we have to see when he comes in the camp, see what we can do. I think he's got to go through the protocol and everything, so we're gonna have to just kind of wait and see. I don't think it's a great pickup, but you know what? Hey, you never know. You could never tell with some of these pickups. Xavier McKinney, it looks like he is going to be out for, they say 10 to 12 weeks. They said he may be ready by the November 22nd bye week. But again, like I said, there is no way to know how this bone is going to heal. I mean, he cracked what they refer to as a fifth metatarsal. It's also known as the Jones fracture. This is something that needs to be monitored because certain NBA players have never come back from this injury fully. Some NFL players have not come back from this injury fully. So he's still. The good thing is he's young. He's not he's not a tremendously large guy, so it's not like an offensive lineman having this type of injury. He does rely on pushing off of the foot and the speed. So you know what? There's no reason to rush him back. We don't know if the bone is going to heal properly. We don't know exactly what's going to go on. I think most people forget that Prince Mukamura, his rookie season of 2011, broke a bone in his left foot early in August, and he did manage to play the final 7 games. But you know what? We don't want to use that as a benchmark because everyone heals differently, and that's kind of what we have to just wait and see with Xavier. And like I said, Jones fracture is nothing to screw around with. I mean, I think if you want to, I would just Google it, see exactly what they're talking about. It's potentially, it could be nothing, but it's just one of those fractures that could lead to other fractures and other problems. But you know what? That's just being a pessimist. We just have to kind of look ahead and see what's going on. One of the things I did want to touch on briefly is the battle for center. I mean, we have Nick Giggs, the alpha male. He's supposed to be, he's in competition with Spencer Pooley. But then you read, that Spencer Pooley and Nick Gates are right next to each other. No one's taken the advantage yet. They're even at this moment. What's his name? Colombo came out and said right now they're even right now at this point in time. So plus the fact that Gates has to learn the position. Spencer does have experience in the position. Spencer started with the Chargers for 16 games. So like I said, he's a guy that has more experience, and like I said, right now Judge rated the competition of center as a scratch even. So you know what? That's neither here nor there. But I do find it interesting that, like I said, we have 2 guys that we gave contracts to that really have done nothing in the league, competing for the same position. So that means one guy's probably going to be the odd man out, which I find kind of fun. And also, we keep forgetting about Shane Lemieux. I mean, Shane Lemieux, I've been hearing some good things from camp. Not that I think he's going to start, but and I love that Colombo came out and said Matt Perrette is enough. He's I use the F word to explain him. I'll be curious to see what goes on, because then you also have Joe Judge saying that Cam Fleming is doing wonderfully and he's probably going to start. So, we have to see what happens with Matt there, later on to the season. I think that would be, that's an interesting battle to watch as well. I am curious to see what we're doing with the linebackers, because like I said, we're not seeing a lot of Ryan Conley on the field because of the injury. And this guy Downs is who was with the team last year, has been impressing. He's 240 pounds. He's got good range. He was on the practice squad last year. Kind of had a cup of coffee with the Giants towards the end of the season. We'll have to see. Could he emerge as a starter? Maybe. He could also emerge as a starter and flame out in week 2, and Conley could be back in. Lord knows. But with the injury to David Mayo, it makes it more curious. Now, David Mayo's, like I said, I've torn my meniscus and my mid meniscus, and this was back in the early 90s. Late 80s. So, that surgery was a little bit more evasive than what David Mayo is going through the arthroscopic now. So, David Mayo could probably return back to the Giants in 3-4 weeks. It really depends on how they're going to, how they want to proceed with that injury, because I think it's funny because people remember going back to basketball, Jeremy Lin, as his big season with the Knicks, he tore his meniscus and missed a bunch of time in the playoffs. So, everyone heals differently, and I think that is my key component to this. Everyone heals differently. And I think it's interesting that people are like, well, we need to now go out and get Logan Ryan because we now have official crisis in the secondary. What the thing is, going out and getting a big name free agent, that's not a Gelman move. That's not one thing I will give Gettleman credit for. He does not panic. I mean, you got Julian Love and Holmes playing well. Corey Ballantyne, they're saying, needs to step up a little bit. You got the other kid they drafted, and you got some other guys. So I don't think they're, besides Brandon Williams and the other kid they brought in, I don't think they're going to make much of a move because, like I said, both Mayo and I'm curious to see what happened because both Mayo and McKinney practiced on Tuesday. And then the injury was reported on Wednesday. So they were signing these two guys with the knowledge pretty much that Mayo and McKinney were going to both be out. So I'm curious to see, I'm curious to find out how McKinney actually hurt himself. We're not getting any information on that, what exactly was done. But you know what? I just find that interesting. So, I mean, you know what? It's just another one of those giant training camps. Every year we seem to have the injuries. I think it's funny when the subscribers say, you know what, we got cursed ever since we left Albany. But I'm not going to lie. It looks like in some ways, you talk about the Madden curse. I'm talking about the Albany curse. I missed it because I usually, every year, I would spend 2 weeks in Troy, New York, which is just outside of Albany. There's a Residence Inn, beautiful hotel, which is 5 miles from training camp. And I would just spend 2 weeks at training camp just watching the team. But like I said, and it is interesting because we have seen a lot of injuries since we left Albany. The subscriber's right. He's not lying. So, but you know what? Injuries are part of football. It's the next man up theory. We have to trust in Judge and kind of go from there. And I've told a million people before, if Judge gets blown, a team gets blown out against Pittsburgh, you know what? I'm not going to panic. I'm not going to say he's a waste of a head coach. We screwed up again. And to the opposite, if he has a spectacular debut at Pittsburgh, I'm not going to say that he is the world beater and he's the guy that going to lead the Giants for the next 10 years. I think we need to just keep it at an even keel and kind of go from there. But like I said, it's the Giants, it's our team, and we just got to do what we got to do. So if you want, drop me an email at onlinebigblue@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. Or again, follow us on Twitter at onlineBigBlue1, and that's at Twitter. And again, this is Tim with Online Big Blue, bringing you the best on New York Giants sports talk and entertainment. And as always, if you could subscribe, if you could ring that bell, I think you know what that means. That'd be awesome.